What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. A couple weeks ago, I did a video where I was talking about the early Avengers comics and how it seemed to me that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were very much flying by the seat of their pants, just making everything up as they went along. Didn't really have a plan. I was talking about how it was weird that the Hulk was a founding member of the Avengers, and then almost immediately Stan Lee and Jack Kirby seemed to regret that, and they were trying to find a way to write him out of the series. Today, I want to talk about some more stuff from the early Avengers comics. I want to talk about Captain America and how this character is very different today than he was back in the 1960s. Most of the time when you have comic book creators introduce a new character into a series, that character does not show up on the scene fully formed. It takes a little while for that character to kind of evolve into their final form, if you will. I've talked about this before with the character of Wolverine, how when he first appeared, he was very different than how he is now, and also not necessarily part of his character, but elements of the mythos of Wolverine took a really long time to fall into place. The Weapon X program, him having gaps in his memory, all of that took like 20 years to finally show up after Wolverine was introduced. And the character of Captain America is kind of similar, and I am not in any way in any place where I can talk about Captain America because I'm not an expert at all. I know a little bit about the 60s Captain America, and then I know a very little bit about present-day Captain America. So there is a huge gap there where I don't know very much at all about the character of Captain America. But these days, most people look at Captain America as being like Marvel's version of Superman. He's very nice. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body. He rescues kittens from trees. He is just an all-around, very pure, noble guy. You look at the 60s Avengers comics, and this is present a little bit in the 60s Captain America comics, although it's a little bit more difficult to spot there, and I'll explain that in a minute. But you look at these 60s Avengers comics collected in Essential Avengers Issue 1, and Captain America is very different. He is not the Marvel version of Superman. He has a little bit of a roughness to him, a little bit edgier than he is today. And that's not to say that he's going to go around kicking puppies or anything like that, but there's one issue where Captain America has paid like 5 wrestlers to fight him, basically to keep up his training regimen, and like none of them are able to take him down separately or together, and Captain America is able to take all of them down without even breaking a sweat. And you might think, okay, that doesn't have anything to do with this character, but during this whole scene, he's trash-talking these guys. He's like, oh, you can do better than that, boys, and then after he's defeated all of them and they're all breathless, he says, better luck next time, haha, and you can tell he's being a little bit sarcastic about it. And you see that periodically throughout this, where when Captain America is fighting someone, he's not being the nice, noble guy who doesn't want to fight, he's just doing this because it's the right thing to do. He's got a little bit of a mean, nasty edge to him, and that's very interesting to see here. And I know that in the 80s, I think that it was in Mark Gruenwald's run on Captain America, he revealed that Captain America had never killed anyone before. And that's a very unusual thing to add to the backstory of a soldier. Captain America did fight in World War II, so it's very odd to make that be part of his character. But I feel like maybe Kirby and Lee were trying to make Captain America feel more like a soldier. And later interpretations, I feel like they're not ignoring the fact that he fought in World War II, but they're getting away from this idea that he's a soldier and that he is going to have a little bit of roughness to him, a little bit of edginess to him, because you can't win a war with niceness. Even if you want to be nice, you want to be noble and pure and true, like modern-day Captain America would, he knows that he's going to have to pull his pants up and be a little bit rough around the edges if he wants to beat the bad guys. And I think that is what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were going for in these Avengers comics. And I said that you can see this a little bit in the Captain America stories that were in Tales of Suspense, which were collected in Captain America, Essential Captain America Volume 1. You can see that a little bit there, but it's kind of harder to spot because like 1/3 of that volume is stories that are set during World War II. It's new stories from the 60s, but they're set during World War II. And it's a little harder to make this distinction about Captain America's character when he's fighting in World War II, because it's easy to understand, okay, he's fighting Nazis, which a lot of people would agree are the most evil people in the entire planet, in the entire history of the planet. Pretty much Nazis are the go-to bad guys. You could have your character kill Nazis and nobody would bat an eye, but then that same character, if they killed anyone else, people would say, whoa, you're not supposed to be killing people. So it's okay for Captain America to kind of have more of a roughness and more of a edginess to him in stories set in World War II. But then when you have him in the present day, or in the 60s, which was the present day at the time, and he still has that about him, it's a little bit odd. I don't want to say it's off-putting, because to me it's very interesting to see Cap presented this way. And I'm very curious at which point he kind of made the jump from being this guy who would trash talk his opponents to being more of a nice guy who is always going to pat you on the back and say, hey, you did good today. I'm curious when he transitioned into that type of character. And I wouldn't have even made a video about this at all, except that there's one issue of Avengers where they are going after the Masters of Evil, and Baron Zemo is the leader of the Masters of Evil. And Captain America is very, very angry with Baron Zemo because Baron Zemo is the one who killed Bucky Barnes, or at least he's responsible for Bucky being dead. And Captain America straight up wants to murder Baron Zemo. There is one issue where Captain America tells Thor, you can kill all the other Masters of Evil if you want to, I must destroy Baron Zemo. He must die at my hands. And Thor says, yeah, sure, that sounds like a plan. And that's very odd to see that in the 60s. It's just a little bit odd to see Captain America kind of being a little bit of a jerk to the people that he fights, but it's extremely odd to see Captain America saying that he flat out wants to murder Baron Zemo. You would think that even with him being a little bit edgier than he is today, that in the 60s they would not have promoted any of their characters flat out wanting to murder someone else. And eventually Baron Zemo does die, but he doesn't really die at the hands of Captain America. He dies because of his own stupidity. But Captain America then is like, you know, I've spent my entire life wanting to kill this guy, or he spent, not his entire life, but he spent a really long time wanting to kill Baron Zemo, and now that Baron Zemo's dead, he says, I thought that I would feel joy, but no, I just kind of feel hollow. It kind of reminds me of Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride. So that's a lot of really heavy stuff there to be dealing with, especially in the 1960s. I mean, a lot of people think of the 1960s as being very tame, very quaint, not having a lot of really heavy material. I would point all of those people who say that to the 1960s Avengers comics, where you have Captain America at one point saying that he doesn't want to live anymore because Bucky is dead, and then he wants to murder Baron Zemo. That's some really crazy stuff, especially in the character of Captain America. And I really love seeing this character being portrayed in such a different way, and I'm really wanting to see the evolution of this character, which I'm unfamiliar with. I don't know the path that this character took from point A to point B, but I'm very much interested in looking into that and reading some more Avengers comics and also solo Captain America comics to see kind of at which point the character evolved and changed into the character that we're more familiar with today. So those are some thoughts that I had on Captain America from the early Avengers comics. Let me know if you guys like this video, if you want to see me do more stuff kind of like this. I enjoy doing videos like this. I enjoy reading these comics that I'm really not familiar with, and then giving my thoughts on them and discussing stuff that I think is worth mentioning. So if you guys like this, let me know if you want to see more. And in the meantime, I will see you guys in the future with some more videos. You guys have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.